The Fairy type is one of the strongest types in Pokemon, but in Scarlet and Violet, you really wouldn't think so. These games have a Steel type Elite Four member, a Poison Team Starbase, and a whole bunch of other trainers that are ready to make my fairies a bunch of fodder. In Gen 9, there isn't a fairy starter, so we chuck this faker off the lighthouse and catch our real first Pokemon, Azurill. Blueberry's got the ability Huge Power, which will become insanely useful later, but it definitely isn't right now, as the only way I can level up is by beating up these level 6 Bonsleys. Yeah, this is gonna get really rough. Once I've eradicated most of their population, I move past Mesagoza and take the long road trip to Cascarafa. I buy a Soothe Bell here and give it to my Azurill to raise my friendship twice as fast. After taking an excessive number of showers, I can eventually evolve Blueberry into Marill. I then head back to Cortanda where I play some IRL Rocket League using this massive olive. Since those things are nasty, I get out of there as soon as I can and start to get ready for my first gym battle against Katie. She brings out Nimble, but since I'm not really worried about the damage it can do, I start to go for Rollout. This move easily dispatches 2 of her Pokemon and leaves her with 1 remaining, being Teddiursa. She was a problem, connecting with 4 Fury Swipes, and with 1 more, she would have taken me out. After that, I was able to OHKO with Rollout, but that was just the start of a massive amount of stress that I would have to endure throughout this run. In preparation for the Stony Cliff Titan, I looked to get a few more Pokemon, and while looking for Eevee, I stumbled upon this shiny. Sadly, she's not a fairy, so I deal with her the only way I know how and continue forward to catch this Eevee. He's also not a fairy type, but he evolves into one, so it's okay. We've then got to make an even longer road trip than before, all the way past the snowy mountains to get the TM for liquidation. By teaching this to Marill with just 1 turn, I can bring Cloth down to half. Another one gets her to run away, and with Arven by my side, the rest of this fight is easy. After the battle, I'm trying to peacefully eat my sandwich as Miraidon comes out of the ball to take it from me. This text option is just an illusion of choice, as I have to give it to him no matter what. Brassius is the next gym leader, and he has grass types, which is pretty bad for my Marill. In order to counter him, I go out of my way to catch this Jigglypuff, evolve her into Wigglytuff, and then get the TM for Flamethrower. During the gym challenge, I find out I have a fear of Sunflora, as these things chase me around the city. Look at them, get them away from me! It's time to take on Brassius, but in all honesty, this fight is easy. Even though Wigglytuff doesn't have an insane special attack stat, I can set up a Sunny Day to make sure my fire type moves deal more damage. This allows me to take care of both his Petalil and Smoliv, as his ace is his signature Pokemon, Truly Wudo. I don't have to worry that much, as with a pair of Flamethrowers, I've won the battle, and after it, my Marill evolves into a Azumarill. Wrapping up with that, it's time for me to literally backtrack up this mountain and get myself the TM for Play Rough. By teaching this to my new evolution, I have an easy way of dealing with the Open Sky Titan, Bombardier. Even though he chucked about 40 rocks into my head, I still had enough brain power to go for my new fairy move. This brought him into phase 2 straight away, and with the help of Arven, we were able to get rid of him. Now I go on a little bit of a catching spree, picking up this Mimikyu and Tinkatank. Tossing Tinkatank on the team, I go ahead and face off against the Dark type Team Starbase, as they really shouldn't be much of a threat. I was totally right about this, as my Azumarill carried for most of the fight, but the Starmobiles get a little tricky the further we progress. That's especially the case for the Poison one, but I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that. While preparing for the 3rd gym, I take the time to evolve Eevee into Sylveon, then go ahead and catch this Ralts. I name him Lime to go along with our nickname theme, and if you end up finding out what that is, leave it in the comments down below, as I'll be liking every correct answer. After evolving him into a Curlia, I go to Lavincia, where I meet this businessman who's talking about really important business things. I'm sure he won't mind if I very inconspicuously eavesdrop on him. Very inconspicuous. Continuing on my path towards Victory Road, I face off against Nimona, and this fight is really easy. That brought me into a gym challenge of similar difficulty, as I think the only way I could have lost this is by not having eyes. Does he really think he's good at hiding? During all that, my Tinkatink evolved into a Tinkatuff, then after getting a few useful items, I challenge Iono in my 3rd gym battle. She leads with Wattrel, who goes for a Spark and gets a Lucky Paralysis. Of course, this really sucks for me, but by staying in the battle and getting off a few Swords Dances, I can take her down with a Shadow Claw. When Bellybolt's sent in, I'm at 20 HP, which means I can survive any attack so long as I don't get crit. Thankfully, the crit doesn't happen, but I was left with 1 HP remaining before going for a Shadow Claw that took out the Bellybolt with an OHKO. The next Pokemon is Luxio, but I definitely don't have enough HP, so I swap into my Sylveon. I ended up getting paralyzed immediately, but it wasn't as big of a problem, as I can keep going for Charm to make sure Luxio's not doing too much damage. After a few disarming voices, Luxio's taken care of, and I'm onto the big threat that's Miss Magius. By swapping into Tinkatuff, I can not only take a ton of damage from Hex, but also do basically nothing with Brutal Swing. This forces me to bring out Wigglytuff, who does a lot more damage with Play Rough. Using that a few more times, I can take down Miss Magius and earn my 3rd gym badge, but that battle really showed me how mediocre my team is. It's alright though, cause we're entering an easy stretch of the game, and this is mostly due to my Azumarill. We get to meet up with this new guy Clive, who's clearly not just the director with a weird haircut. I mean, why would you think something like that? He brings me into my next team starbase, where my Azumarill can really just wash away these fire types. By setting up a rain dance at the start of the fight, I can one-shot Torkoal, and even the Starmobile doesn't stand a chance. With Mela defeated, she goes into her about a year ago speech, but I don't have time for that, so I just skip it and go towards the next Titan. Orthworm, the lurking Steel Titan, has the move Iron Tail, which would be really scary if it wasn't on Orthworm. His attack stat isn't great, and since I have super effective Brick Break, I can crumble his steel frame. All of that just means Miraidon is gonna steal another one of my sandwiches, and for what? So he can jump higher? I'm hungry, man, I really am. From here, it's time to go back to Cascarafa, where I meet the 4th gym leader, Kofu. I bring him his wallet, and then he throws 50k at me. I mean, how much money does this guy have? Maybe I should have kept that thing. Regardless, I bid on some seaweed, then go fight him for my 4th badge. He leads with Veluza as I send in Mimikyu and go for a Swords Dance. His ability Mold Breaker allows him to hit me through my disguise, and after an Aqua Cutter, I'm left with 42 remaining. I take him down with a super effective Shadow Claw, which leads into the next Pokemon Wugtrio. He's faster than me and hits a Water Pulse, which gets the 20% chance of confusing me. Still, I take him down with a Trailblaze, which leads me onto the ace Pokemon Crabominable. With Mimikyu confused, I decide to swap into Azumarill to tank any damage from Crabhammer. Thankfully, this doesn't do too much, and with a handful of Play Roughs, I can defeat Crabominable and win my 4th badge. Up until this point, we've been doing really well, but that's all about to change as our next big battle is against the Poison-type Team Starbase. The first thing we need to do is gather up a handful of useful TMs, things like Light Screen, Reflect, Calm Mind, stuff like that. Step 2 is to basically sell literally everything we've ever owned to buy some Calcium and Carbos. By giving all these to Kirlia and evolving him into Gardevoir, we have a pretty solid counter. The next step is to catch this Flabebe. No, sorry, that's not part of the plan, that kinda just happened. We actually want to change our Gardevoir's nature to timid using this mint, and from there, we're ready to fight. Atticus leads with his Skuntank as I send in my Wigglytuff. On the first turn, Skuntank poisons me with Toxic as I then set up a Light Screen. After eating a Venoshock, I go for a Disable to set up for my next Pokemon Gardevoir. With that Disable, Skuntank's only attacking move is Sucker Punch, so I'm free to set up a handful of Calm Minds. Just as my Light Screen's about to run out, I attack with Mystical Fire, leaving Skuntank in the red. This gets me hit by an extra Sucker Punch, but it shouldn't matter too much as I outspeed both of Atticus's next 2 teammates. All that is thanks to my new nature, and with a pair of one-shots, I'm on to the final Pokemon, if you can even call it that, the Starmobile. Lime can't stay in for any longer, and since I don't have any good switches, I make the only choice I can, and that's a sacrifice. Using Wigglytuff as fodder, I can freely bring out my Sylveon. After tanking a Noxious Twerk, I go for a Charm to lower its attack by 2 stages. With a Tinkatuff swap, I can avoid poison damage while simultaneously baiting out a Fire-type move for Azumarill. Once I've taken not very effective damage, I can go for another Charm to bring the Starmobile to -4. Now I can finally start dealing damage, so I send out Tinkatuff to go for a volley of Flash Cannons. With the Starmobile at a little less than half, I send out my Mimikyu to finish the job. That gets me the win in what was the biggest roadblock of the run so far, and don't even get me started about the Steel-type Elite Four member. After the battle, I notice Miraidon's getting a little antsy as he tries to literally eat Penny. Calm down, man, we'll get you a sandwich soon. With the new spot opening up on my team, I replace it with this Flabebe that I evolve into Floette. We can immediately head towards Larry and the normal gym, but while I'm on my way there, just take in this view. I mean, Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2 is amazing. I am done horsing around though, especially since Larry just disintegrated about 20 people in his cafe. I mean, seriously, where did they go? He starts with Komala as I send in Blueberry to go for Brick Break. After 2 of those, he faints without dealing any damage, and the next Pokemon is Dunsparce. On the first turn, he paralyzes me as I go for a Brick Break that deals a little less than half. I'm not in a great spot here as a Hyper Drill does a lot more than I was expecting, and Brick Break leaves him with a sliver. By sending out Sylveon to finish the job, I'm on to the ace, Staraptor. He shows me that he means business, hitting me with a Facade that brings me down to 7 HP. I then send in Tinkatuff to hopefully end this battle. This ended up being a huge mistake as Tinkatuff got hit by a high damage roll crit that took her down. Gardevoir took care of the rest, but that death was definitely my fault, as if I had a better plan going in, I'm sure none of that would have happened. For some reason, Nemona tries to battle me while I'm grieving, so I beat the brakes off her crappy team and continue on my journey. Heading up the snowy mountain towards Montenerva, I evolve my Floette into a Florges, then talk to the residents of this city. Everybody seems really interested in this Bergmite, but I'm starting to care less and less as I am not built for this weather. In my attempt to get out of here as quickly as possible, I talk to Moist Critical, then walk watch this rap battle. This poor cashier got beaten so badly that he ran off the stage, and in an attempt to avenge him, I fight Rhyme in my gym battle. This is a double battle, but that's actually really good for me. I can start by one-shotting the opposing bayonet, and after the turn, my Pokemon gets stat boost thanks to the audience that's watching us. By continuing to one-shot, both of my Pokemon on the field get stronger, and this eventually leads to Rhyme's entire team getting deleted. Miraidon's getting hungry for more of my sandwiches, so to prevent another penny incident, I go challenge the next Titan. Iron Shreds is a steel type and would be really scary if we didn't have a Azumarill. With him also being part ground, my water type moves are super effective, so all it takes is 2 liquidations to send him into the second phase. This part of the battle was just the Arven show. I mean, he launched off 4 Fire Fangs, flinched with 3 of them, and then burned with his last one. Now that Miraidon's got a full stomach, I head back to the Tag Tree Thicket to catch this Impidimp. Having a dark type is going to be super useful for the upcoming Psychic Gym, so I take the time to evolve him all the way up into a Grimmsnarl. I send this big guy out as soon as I get into Alfornada, but unfortunately, this sparks a few unwanted interactions. After I defeat Nemona, I realize my Azumarill and Grimmsnarl are about to surpass the current level cap. This would have been a major issue if I couldn't just shove them in the box and then take them out right before I need to fight Tulip. She nearly got out of this one. That would have been bad. With the combination of Grimmsnarl and Mimikyu, Tulip's team doesn't stand a chance, and after an array of attacks, I've earned my 7th badge. With one more of those remaining, I head back up the snowy mountain just to go back down it through this weird little skiing challenge. What I'm doing here definitely can't be considered safe, but regardless, I complete it in record time so I can go face off against Grusha. He leads with Frostmoth, who definitely isn't a problem, as I can send in my Gardevoir, who has quad effective Mystical Fire. After toasting that poor little bug, the next Pokemon is Beartick, who connects with an Icicle Crash, dealing well over half my health. Unfortunately for Beartick, I've already landed a Mystical Fire, and with one more, I can move on to Cetitan. Cetitan doesn't have a great special defense stat, so I considered attacking, but since my Gardevoir is already pretty low, I swapped in my Azumarill. This caused a battle of endurance that I won, but took a lot of damage for. By the time Altaria got sent in, I was at 70 HP, and then after eating an Ice Beam, I was at 43 and frozen. Freeze is one of the most annoying status conditions in the entire game, so rather than deal with it, I simply brought out my Sylveon. Since Sylveon's special defense stat is so high, I can sponge all of Grusha's attacks, and after a handful of Draining Kisses, I've won the battle. With only 2 more Team Star bases and another Titan, I'm nearing the Elite Four. The next big challenge is our fairy friend Ortega, and I can't help but think Tinkaton would have been great here. It's alright though, because we still have access to a Steel type in this Klefki right outside of Alfornada. My strategy for this battle was really cool, and I'll start at the beginning with Sylveon. By using Skill Swap on Azumarill, I can remove her ability Huge Power, which essentially neutralizes her attack stat. After a few further debuffs from Charm and Reflect, I can swap into my Gardevoir to trace the Azumarill's new ability Cute Charm. Since Azumarill's only got physical attacks, she eventually falls in love with me as I'm free to set up a bunch of Calm Mines. This allows me to one-shot the entire team except for the Starmobile that I left a little below half. Now Klefki gets sent to clean up the rest, and Ortega is pissed. Sorry man, I just have the better fairy team, you gotta relax. Our last Team Starbase is one where I have the advantage as my fairy types are super effective. Aries' team was beaten down by a barrage of fairy and psychic type moves, and this is where we get our final about a year and a half ago speech, and I'm so happy about that. Me and Clive then find out the leader of Team Star was actually our dear friend Cassiopeia, so why did they want us to fight Team Star? I don't know, this storyline is confusing. If you somehow understand it, let me know, but it kinda just seems silly. As we get into the endgame, I gather some much needed EXP candies by beating up on these poor 1-star raid Pokemon. That gives me the boost in confidence I need to fight the last Titan, Dondozo and Tatsugiri, though this wasn't much of a challenge. Thunderbolt paired with Moonblast carry me pretty hard, and the only stressful part of the battle was getting out of the way before Dondozo pulverized me. This part of the game is supposed to be super heartwarming, but I have cutscenes off, so it was kinda just a black screen for a few seconds. Sorry, Arven. With little left to do, it's almost time to go against the Elite Four. After buying some useful items and planning out my fights, I get ready to challenge Rika in my first battle. She's got ground types and leads with her Wish Cache as I send in Mimikyu. Having access to Woodhammer allows for an easy one-shot, as the next Pokemon to come in is this weird-looking camel. Mimikyu received a bunch of recoil damage, so I swap into my Sylveon to tank some hits. Even though my Moonblast is not very effective, I can still take her down with a couple of them, as the next Pokemon is Donphan, who has the move Iron Head. Knowing I have to break her sturdy ability first, I send out Grimmsnarl to go for Fake Out. This allows me to bring out Azumarill to go for a pair of liquidations that take out both Donphan and the following Pokemon Dugtrio. Last out is Clodsire, and since he can't do that much damage, I bring out my Mimikyu to finish the job. Next is the dreaded Steel-type trainer, this little girl, Poppy. Her Steel types aren't as threatening anymore, and it's because I have a good plan, starting with Mimikyu. On the first turn, we both do some setup, though mine was way more efficient, as Stealth Rocks really doesn't do much. With my disguise still up, I'm safe to go for another Swords Dance to bring my attack to +4. My disguise then breaks, but it's way too late, as a Drain Punch forces out the next Pokemon, Magnezone. He's got Sturdy, but it doesn't matter, because even if he went for Flash Cannon, it wouldn't be able to one-shot. With that, I can crumble Poppy's entire team up until her last Pokemon, Tinkaton. I'm not sure if I would have been able to one-shot if she hadn't terrestrialized into a Steel type. That gets me the easy win in a fight I was terrified of. The next Elite Four member is Larry, who's a trainer that's already taken out a Pokemon of mine. Rest in peace, Tinkatuff, we'll be sure to avenge you. I know Larry's lead Tropheus is going to set up the sun, so I send in my Gardevoir to trace his ability Chlorophyll. On the first turn, I went for a Calm Mind as Tropheus set up a Sunny Day. This is when I knew I got him, because not only can I one-shot all of his Pokemon, but I outspeed them as well thanks to Tropheus' own ability. Tropheus, Staraptor, Altaria, Oricorio, and Flamigo all go down to one-shots, and with that I can move on to the last Elite Four member, Hassel. He represents Dragon types, so do I even need to tell you how this went? Mimikyu easily took care of the first 3 Pokemon, and then I swapped into Gardevoir for the last 2. After all that, I'm ready to face off against Champion Geeta, and I think she's the weakest champion I've ever faced. Her lead Pokemon, Espathra, can barely do any damage, so with Mimikyu, I set up a bunch of Swords Dances. Even after my disguise is broken, I don't have to worry about much as I start to mash Shadow Claw and Drain Punch. Geeta's team wasn't even a threat, as each of her Pokemon fell like dominoes. It was one after the other until eventually I dispatched her last Pokemon, Glamora. I consider the real champion battle to be against Nimona, as on paper, her team's a little bit better. Unfortunately for her, we can employ the exact same strategy we used in the last battle. In this late game, a lot of Pokemon have setup moves, but really nothing can compete with my Mimikyu and Swords Dance. That being said, Nimona gets dropped in front of everybody, and for some reason she wants to have another battle as if the same thing wouldn't just happen again. That completes my victory road path, and on my way out of the school, I run into Clive. He ends up being the director, which is something I totally didn't see coming. His team actually ended up giving me some serious trouble, as I didn't even realize the fight was here. Most of his Pokemon went down without a hitch, but his 4th Pokemon, Poltegeist, gave me some problems. For it, I sent in my Florges, who got hit by a Shadow Ball and then a Will-O-Wisp. I then connected with a pair of Moonblast, leaving Poltegeist in the red as it set up a Shell Smash. This wasn't good, as my Mimikyu didn't have Disguise, and a Shadow Ball would take care of most Pokemon I sent in. In the end, the best decision I could make was to stay in and eat a Shadow Ball. I survived at 7 HP and took out the Poltegeist with a Moonblast, but because of that burn, my Florges went down. The director wasn't a problem after that, but it sucks to lose a Pokemon this late into the run. Penny ended up being the real Cassiopeia, not like I didn't expect this, she was always a bit weird. Her team is a bunch of Mimikyu fodder, and after dealing with it, the Starfall Street storyline is completed. Last on the chopping block is Arvin, and he takes us back to where it all began, at the lighthouse where I threw out my fake starter. He wants to fight me with his Mabostiff, but I really don't think he should do that, this thing literally just recovered. By sending in Gardevoir with a Lumberry at the start of the fight, I can get off a ton of Calm Minds, and this allows me to sweep his entire team. That's our last path complete, so it's time to head towards Area 0. The whole gang gets together for this. I mean, Nimona, Arvin, and unfortunately Penny. Arvin's got a problem with his AI father, and I don't blame him, he's a real butthead. Once I'm inside the crater, I have to walk a lot, and Arvin almost got lost, but it's okay, he can teleport. Eventually, after making it to the bottom floor, I can challenge AI Turo, and he leads with Iron Moth, which is my worst possible matchup. Iron Moth is fast and super strong, and proves that by hitting me with a critical hit Sludge Wave that took me down to 27 HP. As long as I was able to set up Light Screen, I'm good. My Sylveon served his purpose, so I let him go down. That was to get me a free switch into Pineapple, who knows the move Stomping Tantrum. Being a Fire Poison type makes you 4 times weak to ground moves, so after I get hit by a Sludge Wave, I go for that to take the Oko. Next up is Iron Hands, who has the move Iron Head, and rather than swapping out, I decide to go for a Spirit Break. This led to another one of my Pokemon fainting.
Now that's a lot of damage!
But it's alright, because I did well over half and can freely swap into Gardevoir. The rest of his HP was taken by Moonblast, and this led to Iron Jugulus. Iron Jugulus is one of the weaker Paradox Mons, so I was able to outspeed in one shot. Next is Iron Thorns, who's a little more threatening, but doesn't have great moves for dealing with Gardevoir. Thanks to that, I can exploit his weak special defense stat in 2-shot. The 5th Pokemon is one of my favorites in this generation in Iron Bundle. I don't think he's really known for his defenses, so it's no surprise that a Thunderbolt was able to bring me on to the last Pokemon, Iron Valiant. By switching into Klefki, I can avoid a poison type attack, and after eating a Brick Break, I hit a Flash Cannon, taking Iron Valiant into the red. Knowing AI Toro's gonna go for a Brick Break, I swap into my Mimikyu to avoid the damage entirely. Since that didn't break my disguise, I don't have to worry about getting one-shot, which means I can safely go for a Shadow Claw to win me this run. The rest of the game is a whole bunch of Miraidon stuff, which doesn't affect our actual run, but hopefully it affects him and gets him to stop eating my sandwiches. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.